Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I'm a 25-year-old female, currently working as a dance teacher at an art academy. I was living with my father since he was sick, and it also provided me a lot of financial support. I finished my college only 2 years ago and did not make enough money to move out. Plus, I loved my father, and spending as much time with him as possible seemed like a great idea because of his failing health. He had cancer, about which we found out way too late, unfortunately. It was already stage 4, and the doctor said that they could do nothing. He took a late retirement and was working till he couldn't anymore. So he got retired after he found out he had less than 6 months to live and wanted to spend that time with me. He passed away a few months ago. He was not a wealthy man by any stretch, but he left me with a beautiful house, a fair piece of land, and enough money to start making a steady living to live a comfortable life. We were just done with the funeral and all the paperwork, but then my mother showed up. My mother and father separated when I was 11, and she was a junkie. And my father tried so hard to get her off these things. He sent her to rehabs and paid for it. He gave her everything, but she always found a way to get back into it. One night, she had a huge fight with my father when he refused to give her any money to go buy drugs. So she convinced me to steal money from my father's wallet and go pick up the drugs from the boy living next door. My father was livid when he found out, and another huge fight followed by their messy divorce, and it left me with my father only. She told me that she hated me for being a snitch before she left and never bothered to try to contact me again. My father explained to me the things I never understood at that age growing up, and how he had to give her half the property and assets he owned and send her an allowance. I was glad that my mother did not try for my custody. My father raised me the best way I could ask for. The only other time I ever heard about her was when I was 16 and she tried to break in our house. I was asleep and in my room, but heard my father and her fighting about it. She was here to steal the stuff which she could sell to buy drugs, and when my father refused to let her go with his valuable things, she tried to hit him. When things got too loud, I rushed downstairs and saw my father on the floor with him bleeding through his head. He looked half conscious, and my mother was nowhere to be found. I called an ambulance and reached the hospital. It wasn't a deep wound, but could be fatal. My father and I decided to file a complaint of theft and attack, but my mother was never found again. Monthly allowance stopped, but she never tried to contact me again, so we let it be and moved on. Now she shows up after my father's death demanding her share of the inheritance. I could not believe her nerve to come in front of me again. She did not even show up for my father's funeral, and now she's here to ask what she gets out of my father's death. I told her off and called the police, asking them to open a case of theft and attack from 9 years ago. She thought I would forget about the time, but she was wrong. The police came and arrested her for stealing and hitting my father with a screwdriver that night. She screamed sorry and begged me to listen to her. She said she did not want to hurt him, but she needed the money and that she hit him by accident. I could not believe a word coming out of her mouth. All I could think of was the anger I felt when she came to see me after all these years, but only to ask for the money. Am I the a-hole for turning my mother in? They arrested my mother, but then let her go as it was an old case of felony and she is now too old, 56, to serve the time. They informed of this, and while I was disappointed, I did not push them to punish her because it really had been too long, and I think my father would have forgiven her by now. He loved her so much before she turned to the drugs completely. It's bad to say, but I'm a little surprised by how she's still alive. It's been 4 months since my father's death, and my mother is still persistent about the inheritance. I told her the day she got off the charges that she is not getting anything my father built over the years because she never respected any of it when she had it all. Since then, she's been trying to talk to me for days, asking me for help, but I always ignore her. 2 days ago, she showed up at my door on Sunday since I'm out at the academy all week. I was about to close the door on her when she begged me to listen to her. I could not see her like this, so I let her in and saw that she, brought a girl with her. She introduced her to me as her daughter Emily, 15. I was shocked to know she had a daughter. Then she proceeded to tell me all about what went on after my father and her got divorced. She said the money coming from him wasn't enough for her even when she was trying to quit drugs. She fell in with the wrong people and then found out she was pregnant. She did not even know who the father was. So, for the baby's sake, she finally decided to really quit the drug, and she was in a lot of debt because of it. That is why she showed up that night. She hit my father because she finally wanted to be free of those drug dealers by paying them their money so she could raise her daughter without any of it affecting her. She ran away to Oklahoma, got a job as a cleaning lady, but then she got sick and lost the job. When she finally got the test done and found out that she has a terminal disease that will not allow her to work, she did not know where else to go. She told me that she knew I had my father to look after me when she left, but Emily will have no one, and she does not want to send her to foster homes since she herself grew up in foster homes and knew what it's like. She came back to ask my dad for help. She said she even talked to him before he died on the call, and he promised to help her and her daughter. That is why she came back and asked for the inheritance. I did not know what to say or feel. I have been hating her all these years, but she did not have an easy life either. Then I looked at the girl, Emily. She was a quiet girl, so I told my mother that I would help her and that she and Emily could live with me, and I would try my best to support them financially. But they are getting nothing from the inheritance because if my father had intended to help them by giving them a part of it, he would have told me. Me, my mother, and her daughter Emily have been living together for 2 years now. Emily is in her senior year of high school, and my mother is on her deathbed. Things have gotten so much better between her and me in these 2 years. She and I spent a lot of time talking, and it explained a lot of things that happened during my childhood. Now that I am more mature and she's sober, we get to have a real mother daughter relationship. I introduced her with my long term boyfriend, now fiance, who had only heard bad things about her until recently. She's sick with a type of disease that slowly stops your senses and eventually kills you. She likely got it from things that she used to take. She stays in bed longer now and sleeps a lot. Her body is giving out and she's dying. I know it because I have seen it when my father was on the same bed. When my father passed away, I hated that he couldn't see me in a white gown and walk me down the aisle. That is why me and my fiance, Niall, decided to do it while I can still have my mother to give her blessings. Emily and I have gotten close too. We introduced each other as stepsisters. She told me she got an interest in dancing, so I gave her a spot in my dancing class. I pay for my mother's medical bills and Emily's needs, but I guess it is better to live this way. Having them around made it easy for me to deal with my father's death. And even in the last days of her life, understanding my mother and finally coming to love her made a huge impact on my life as I always thought that she did not love me enough to stay, to quit. Now I know things I did not before, and even if I am not grateful for them, I don't hate the way things turned out. Emily has become the little sister I never had, and I'm excited to send her to college. My father never remarried, so it was quite boring and lonely for me growing up with just him and me. Now I get to experience the things I thought I missed out on for life. My wedding is next month, and I'm very happy to have Emily as one of my bridesmaids and my mother present there to watch me marry the love of my life. NTA for turning her in when she showed up again. She hit your father and then left him bleeding on the floor. She might have had the reasons which she explained to you later, but in the moment you were not the a-hole for wanting her to get punished for hitting your father and stealing your stuff. NTA, but I think you should have had a little more empathy from the start to ask her how she was and what happened from the start instead of calling cops on her as soon as she showed up. I mean, she saw you 15 years later and so did you, so just a little more empathy. I'm a 34-year-old female and I have a sister, 29, who has been battling infertility issues for the past 5 years. Since I'm not married and don't plan to have children, my parents are desperately looking to have a grandchild, and so is doing everything they can to support my sister. Some of her previous failed pregnancies were high risk, and she had to quit most of her jobs halfway after getting pregnant, and her husband makes just enough to support both of them. So, to help them financially, my parents, along with one of my paternal aunts, set up a small fund to support the IVF procedures. The thing is, at first, everyone was motivated, and since we had about at least 25 people from the community and family who chipped in every Christmas, it was okay, and the burden did not just fall on me, although since the start, I was pressured into contributing the most. Over the years, many people have dropped out, and now it's just 7 of us, including me, my retired parents, and other retired aunts or uncles who don't even have quarter the amount to donate. Since then, it has been nothing but pressure to donate more from my side. I have stood my ground and said no, and everyone keeps guilt tripping me. My sister keeps taking loans after loans, and I don't know, but the anger and stress of it all is being projected onto me. However, I decided that this time around, I no longer want to contribute as much. Mind you, I used to contribute upwards of 7,000 every year. After years of feeling used for money and being a doormat, I got enough and made my stand. I instead decided to start and invest in a small baking side hustle with my friend, which I keep hushed for long till we published our social media account. My sister found out and made a scene to my parents, saying that I was being cruel and greedy with my money when literally all this, while I was the one contributing the most of any of them. This baking side hustle had been a dream of mine since young, and never mind the fact that they don't want to support me because my sister's IVF issues overshadows everything, but they keep belittling my passion and efforts. Sis says that baking aspirations can be halted and continued, but she only has limited time left. IMAO, WTF, AITA here? Like, please tell me I'm not going crazy. Obviously, whatever she says, I'm sticking to my baking business. Plus, it is cooperated with my friend, and I can't just quit the side hustle in a whim. NTA, 7,000 a year? That's insanely generous, but I don't blame you for wanting to stop. It's really messed up of her to expect you to spend 7,000 a year so she can try to have a baby. Let them be mad at you. This is literally not your responsibility. NTA, as a woman with fertility issues so bad that my uterus has been removed, I can give you some perspective. No one is responsible for somebody else's lack of anything. Add up the total amount you've donated to her IVF and issues, and that's the total you've already helped above and beyond what you had to. Family doesn't change a thing. Individuals are responsible for their individual self, no more, no less. Make yourself the priority. It's very overdue. NTA, as someone currently struggling with infertility issues, I can sympathize with your sister. With that being said, I could never in a million years imagine demanding money from my family to help pay for my medical bills. It's very sad that your sister is struggling, but you need to live your life and not give up your dreams of baking for her dream of being a mom. It's very unfair that your family expects this from you. I think you're all amazing for supporting her as long as you have, but honestly, kids are expensive, and the costs associated with them won't just end if she's able to conceive. Could they even afford a child if they're successful? I'm a 25-year-old female, and I'm a hotel receptionist, and I do modeling on the side. I did a bridal gown photo shoot 3 weeks before my brother's wedding, but the ad came yesterday. It was for a local boutique, which isn't really big. They have maybe 2 branches in our region. My brother, Simon, 30, got married last week, but they postponed their honeymoon because of his job. So when the ad came out yesterday, my sister-in-law, Nancy, 29, saw it, a medium-sized LED screen, in the shopping center. I also posted some photos in my IG account. She called me and asked why I have bridal photos in the city center, and I told her I got an offer to model bridal gowns for this boutique. I then asked her what she thought of my photos. Honestly, I was expecting a feedback like, "You look beautiful," or "The gowns looked good on you." But instead, she yelled at me on the phone and accused me of being jealous of her. I was surprised because Nancy and I are friendly with each other. I didn't expect her to blow up on me like that. She hung up on me, and a few minutes later, I got a call from her sister, who sounded really upset with me for stealing her sister's thunder. I told her Nancy's wedding was literally 7 days ago. So why are they accusing me of stealing her thunder? We got into a verbal altercation and she called me names. I retaliated and called her names before I hung up. Last night, I saw a TikTok video about the whole situation, and a lot of Nancy's friends are siding with her. They said I was jealous of the bride. That's why I did the photo shoot. They're also commenting nasty things in my IG, so I had to turn the comment section off. I asked Simon to talk to his wife, but he wants nothing to do with it. Am I missing something here? Because quite frankly, I don't understand why I am an a-hole. NTA, I don't understand what's wrong with those people. She had her day. You're doing your job. This sounds like people in their teens, for God's sake. NTA. How long is it going to take for her to think everyone should still be focused on her? Like you said, it was 7 days ago. Is she going to accuse you after 2 weeks, a month, or 2 years after? She needs to get a grip on reality and a reminder that while you are happy for the newlywed couple, they have had their wedding day. Ignore all her cliquey friends and tell your brother to grow a little bit of a backbone and tell his new wife to stop being a catty little what child. Otherwise, good luck to him for living with that for the rest of his married life. Good for you, OP, for doing that shoot and sticking up for yourself over something you had no control over. I'm sure those dresses looked amazing on you. NTA. WTF? What is wrong with Nancy and her kind? Do they think the whole solar system revolves around them? I don't know. Maybe it's a cultural thing, but I don't really understand this whole stealing thunder thing. I understand others' sentiments when it's other people upstaging the newlyweds, making big announcements, but sometimes others claim it's stealing their thunder when the truth is they're just being entitled AHs. Plus, it's just an AD. It's a job that pays bills. Ask her next time how long she should have that thunder, LOL. Oh, an L brother.